Part of the struggle is dealing with the tormentor, dealing with the mind, dealing with the ego that constantly bombards us with thoughts of fears, worries, concerns, what ifs, should I do this, should I do that, what if I did this, living in the past, projecting in the future. When we find ourselves suffering, it's because we've bought into the tormentor's reality. We think what it's what it's saying, we plug into that energy. We buy into it. Now, the tormentor is not this all evil, all-encompassing energy that we've been led to believe. It really is trying to protect us, and it has our own best interests. And it's constantly at work trying what it believes to make us happy. And see, the problem is, this day and age, in the modern era, the things that bombard our minds and consume us, and all the information we take, is so complex and so much more overwhelming than what our minds were originally set up to do. I think what we call the tormentor today, the ego or mind, is part of our biological survival mechanism. So, back thousands and thousands of years ago, it was designed to help us stay alive. And so it would be constantly, and for valid reasons. I mean, there were a lot more threats back in that day, so it would constantly need to be aware and alert about having enough food to eat, about procreation, protecting your family, protecting your mate, so on and so forth. So it was constantly at work in this effort to protect ourselves and to continue the species. Today, there's just the same rules don't apply, and it's no longer necessary, but it's still at work. It needs something to latch onto, to grab onto, to worry about, to project into the future, regret the past. And so it latches onto trivialities. In the grand scheme of things, most of our worries, problems, fears, preoccupations pass, and a year from now we can't even remember them, let alone 6 months. So how do we deal with this? What most people, we fall into the trap is that the tormentor is kind of like our prison guard that taunts us and keeps us on edge and keeps us up at night and causes us stress and worry. And we use the prisoner guard as our rescuer. So in other words, the prisoner guard being the mind, the ego, and we will read books and try to fix ourselves using the mind and ego. And it's kind of this crazy thing. So, the mind will latch on, okay, I'm not going to project into the now, into the future. I'm going to solely stay focused in the now. And it kind of uses this force and this worry and this stressful energy to try to make ourselves be more enlightened, be more aware, be more at peace. And it just ends up creating this more tension and more turmoil. What really helps us to be sensitive to the energy in which we manage our lives. We're so accustomed to using force. I don't mean this strong, domineering. I mean there's just this constant subtle tension of we're always trying to change ourselves and fix ourselves and become better persons and achieve goals and go and worry and work this problem out and what am I going to do here. And so it's a very exhausting way to lead one's life, and is very prevalent in the modern age. And even people among spirituality, they take the same things that plagued them before they became spiritual And now they burden themselves with all new kinds of rules and regulations of what they should and shouldn't do and how a spiritual person's supposed to be. And it's exhausting, over the long haul. So what do we do? One is to create space between the tormentor, and Eckhart Tolle talks about this beautifully, is to create a space between the tormentor and our true nature. Well, what is our true nature? It's not this metaphysical, all-knowing, ever-present, the God within us. No, it's, in my opinion, I look at the animal kingdom and look at animals in the wild, and it's that, how does a animal, a bird, know to fly south? How does a tiger or a lion know how to get dinner? And a lot of it is taught, but a lot of it also is instincts. Very young animals in the wild have these just natural instincts that are beyond thought. Eckhart talks about, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but during the tsunami, before the tsunami hit, a lot of the animals went to higher ground instinctively. So we as human beings have these instincts. And when we live intuitively, when we just kind of really, it's basically trusting ourselves. I think a big problem is we just don't trust our own intuition, our own inner guide, inner compass, higher self, whatever you want to call it. And when we surrender to that and let that be the captain of our lives, the director, and that is our foundation, and you can very much sense the difference in energy when you're operating the ego and mind that's kind of worrying and working constantly at work and trying to work out problems and what if and this, and you sense that tension. You just take a breath and you realize that's not me. And then you go back to your intuitive self. It's kind of the intuitive self is a still, softer, more confident voice of just a peace, of contentment, of just a very soft, soothing energy. That it's just very peaceful, and you're not going to the tormentor. You just like your captor, the prison guard. You can't control it. You can't force it to stop making you crazy. What you can do, though, is acknowledge, that's not me. And over time, you just create a bigger and bigger gap between who you truly are and the tormentor. Okay, and you're not trying to stop the tormentor. You're not trying to change the tormentor. You're observing the tormentor. And this is just such a transformational way in which to live one's life. It's not guided by force and stress and fear. I gotta follow this rule, or I gotta be a spiritual person. It's surrender. It's acceptance. It's observing. It's letting go. It's trusting. It's confidence. It's stillness. It's peace. It's non-attachment. And all these things don't come overnight. And so it's patience on top of everything. And sometimes our growth along our spiritual path is so minuscule, but the accumulation of that minuscule progression, it moves mountains. And when we just trust and surrender to that process, fantastic things happen. And so, moving in that direction, what are the ingredients? Well, the ingredients is stillness. The ingredients is listening to our intuition, to our higher self, having the courage to follow it, solitude, and just really getting to know ourselves and living more authentically, independent of other people's opinions and thoughts and what they think we should live our lives. It just has this quietness. And sometimes you'll meet people like that, and you'll just feel at peace in their presence. And we have that within ourselves.